Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 6 of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights football season, where we'll see the 1-4 Scarlet Knights take on the 2-2 Purdue Boilermakers. Let's get into it. Now, we will start off with the Scarlet Knights, who are coming off a heartbreaking 3-overtime 48-42 loss to Michigan last week, which dropped them to 1-4. Now, to this point, they're averaging about 232 passing yards per game, 128 rushing yards per game, and on defense, they're allowing about 265 passing yards and 174 rushing yards. On the season, their turnover differential is +2, and they have 9 sacks and have allowed 8 sacks this season. Now, Scarlet's coming in pretty hot on offense, especially after that last game. Rutgers had an unbelievable game with about 380 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bo Melton had another great game. He was just put recently on the Blitnikoff watch list. Up to this point right now, Fatsuki and Fogg are top 2 in the Big Ten, I believe, in tackles, with Fatsuki being about 17 ahead of anyone else in the Big Ten. Now, the record looks bad. They're coming off 4 straight losses, but it's a little deceiving. They've had 2 tough, hard-fought games versus teams that are right now in the top 15, Indiana and Ohio State. And they're coming off 2 very close losses. So right now, this Rutgers team could easily be 3-2. Okay, now we'll go on to the opponent, the Purdue Boilermakers, who are coming in this game at 2-2 on a 2-game losing streak. They won their first 2 games against Iowa and Illinois and have lost their last 2 to Northwestern and Minnesota. Now, all these games have been very close. 4-point win against Iowa, 4-point win against 7-point win against Illinois. They lost 7-point affair to Northwestern and a 3-point loss to Minnesota in their most recent game. So, coming to this game, they're averaging a very high 321 passing yards per game and only 79 rushing yards. They're a very pass-heavy offense, and they are allowing about 260 passing yards per game and about 146 rushing yards per game. Their turnover differential on the season is -1, and they only have 3 sacks, which will not be helped by the loss of George Karlaftis to COVID reasons. Tested positive, so he is ineligible to play for the next 3 weeks. But they have also only allowed 3 sacks, so they kind of even that out. Purdue is obviously a pretty decent team. They only had a 7-point loss to, right now, looks like the Big Ten West winner in Northwestern. They're bringing back Rondell Moore, who is one of the best playmakers in probably the entire nation. He is incredible. But this team is definitely beatable. This should be a very close game, I would say, with Rutgers being a very competitive team and Purdue not winning or losing by a lot against teams like Illinois that Rutgers probably should have beat, and losing by 7 to a 5-0 Northwestern team. Both teams are going to be very competitive, so I would expect a very low-scoring, low-point differential. It's going to be a close game. And I think it's going to be a very pass-heavy game because Purdue is not a great pass defense team, and they like to pass on offense a lot. So expect very high scoring, lots of passing. And now on to my worst case, best case scenarios, and what I actually think is going to happen in this game. Worst case scenario for Rutgers is Purdue comes in after this 2-game losing streak, like they coming in, they really want to win. Their passing offense just completely blows up, I would say, the very subpar Rutgers passing defense, and they just dominate. They throw for 400, maybe even 500 yards. And then on defense, Vedral has a slump after that huge game against Michigan, and they just can't really get anything going on offense. And I can see, worst case scenario for Rutgers, Purdue winning by 3 scores, like a real blowout. But I don't think that's happened. That's a worst case scenario. Best case scenario, I would say, is they can somehow contain the passing game. They get a good rush on a Purdue offensive line that has been pretty good. with the very bad Purdue defensive line and Karlaftis out, Purdue gets no pressure on Vedral, and he just has another great day. Maybe he even throws for like 400 yards. And then when they start to spread out, they can bring in Pacheco, and he starts going, and the offense for Rutgers is unstoppable. And Rutgers wins by somewhere around 10, maybe 14 would be a best case scenario. And on to what I think will actually happen. Like I said, I think it's going to be a very close game because Purdue has not won or lost by more than 7 this season, and Rutgers has shown to be very competitive up until the end, even against teams like Indiana and Ohio State. Lots of passing, going to be very high scoring, and I think Purdue wins something like 38-34, 38-35. I think it'll be very close. I hope Rutgers maybe can pull out a win. It would be another heartbreaking loss if they lose another close game. But I think it's going to happen again. I think the trend continues where they lose a very close game that they could win. But I think Purdue's pass-heavy offense is really just going to really mess up Rutgers. I mean, thank God, hopefully, Purdue isn't putting a backup quarterback because that has ruined Rutgers the past 2 weeks. And both those guys have just dominated. But hopefully they come in with the game plan. They can contain the passing game a little bit. So, yeah, Purdue wins something like 38-35. And now to my 2 predictions for the game. I think Vedral has another big day where he throws for close to 300 yards and multiple touchdowns, maybe even a rushing touchdown. And I think Purdue has no sacks. I don't think they touch Vedral, really. Their pass rush is just really bad. And even though Rutgers has a lot of decent amount of sacks, their line has looked a lot better. And especially against a D-line like that, I think they can really get the passing going, even really get the rushing game going. Pacheco has not really been able to get really good going this year, but I think he really could get a good start in this game with a very bad Purdue defensive line. So that's the video, and I hope you enjoyed my predictions for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights versus the Purdue Boilermakers. Goodbye.